Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today I'm going to talk about integrating symbol systems and symbol as the language of Western occultism, symbol as the language of magic. And I'm going to talk about the use of symbol as basically the skeleton system of occultism as a way of working with magic. Once you understand this, then you can immediately begin working with various forms of magic. Once you understand symbol systems, then you can work with all kinds of forms of practical magic, and you can begin crafting your own techniques that cannot be found in any book. Because once you understand the principles of occultism, once you understand the skeletal structure and the various theories, once you understand the principles of how occultism works, then you won't have to just memorize spells from books. You won't have to rely on this type of thing because you'll understand the principles behind it. This is, in a sense, looking behind the curtain and seeing the machinery, seeing how it all works and is put together. So, symbols are the language of magic. Also, another aspect of this is that symbols are viewed by some as being the language that facilitates communication between the individual microcosm and the macrocosm, or the universe. In the same way, once you have fully integrated a symbol system, then the universe can begin to speak back to you. Once you've fully integrated the symbolism of colors, animals, timing, things like this, there is the view that various synchronicities could occur, that the universe can begin to speak to you through symbol, through the use of various puns, so that you'll notice certain events lining up and you'll be able to decode a message. So that symbols are both the language of magic, and they are also the language that is used to communicate back and forth with the universe, or, as some would say, with God, or with your HGA, however you want to see that. There is that viewpoint. Symbols are also tools of self-transformation and self-change. They are used to transform yourself. So, symbols are both at the root of more elaborate forms of magic. For example, let's say that you want to work with, the planet Mars. Really, the planetary forces have that in itself, these 7 so-called archetypes, exist in themselves as part of an elaborate symbol system. But okay, let's say that you want to work with the fiery energy of Mars. So you have red, the color of Mars, and of course there is some difference between the mainstream candle magic colors and those ascribed to the planets. But let's say that you want to work, or let's say you want to work with Mercury. Okay, you see that orange is a color that is often applied to Mercury. You know that the day of Mercury is Wednesday. You know that the caduceus is a symbol of Mercury. You have various symbols of Mercury. You have incense assigned to Mercury. Or whatever the case may be. Let's say that you're doing a a prosperity spell. The incense reminds you of your goal. The colors, the symbols that your eyes look upon remind you of your goal. The sounds with the various chants remind you of your goal. So that this helps one to have one-pointed concentration. Because, after all, we are physical beings. We live within a physical universe of objects. So that we have our five senses, so that whatever you look upon reminds you of your central goal. You smell the incense, it reminds you of your goal. You hear the sounds, the sense of touch. All of these things, everywhere you look in your ritual, reminds you of your one purpose. So that one-pointedness, and this also connects to the practice of meditation, as one-pointed thought, one-pointed concentration upon one thing. That fixed thought is a means to an end, and this is one aspect of the meaning of fixing the volatile. Much in the same way as the volatilization of the fixed often has to do with breaking up our fixed belief systems and things like that. But this is the fixing of the volatile, being able to fix thought, which is normally a thing that moves here and there, and we're learning to solidify this and make it concrete, to bring the mind to one-pointed concentration. So as you can see, the various incenses, smells, sounds, and sights all relate to your central purpose and aim. So you see this both in a more elaborate ritual setting, that symbols really are the language of Western occultism. At a more simple standpoint, you can take one aspect of symbol and make it the basis of your magic. One of the simplest forms of magic is candle magic. I mean, yes, that is true also, but even simpler than that is color magic. One of the simplest forms of magic is color magic. Basically, different colors have different meanings ascribed to them. And this is, in part, this is individualistic. From another standpoint, this is cultural, because we all have these meanings given to us by culture, collective values. So, whatever the case may be, red is often seen to be associated with lust and love and passion and energy. Also aggression. There are different things that red could symbolize. Green could represent growth, money, prosperity, abundance. Yellow is often associated with happiness, white with purity. So these various colors have some symbolic meanings. So one of the simplest forms of magic, see, it reminds you of your goal, one-pointed concentration. What you can do if you want to attract wealth, wear a green t-shirt while focusing upon your goal. Be reminded of your goal. Let this go into your subconscious. So if you're wanting to attract wealth, you can wear the color green, and let this be a way of accessing the subconscious and reminding yourself also consciously of your goal, one-pointed concentration. If you want to attract lust, sexual desire, or if you want to add energy to things, have the color red. You can put the color red around you. That is one aspect of doing this. So, at one of the simplest levels, you can just use color magic. Just work with different colors. If you want to connect with earth energy or with earth elementals or something, you can work with brown or green. So there's that aspect of it, that you have the color magic. Then also, there's something interesting. If you look at Renaissance magic, a lot of times a lot of times this is viewed as more of a modern way of looking at things, and it is to a certain extent. People used to work more under the spirit model. However, Marsilio Ficino was a very important figure in Western occultism. Marsilio Ficino was actually the first person to translate the Corpus Hermeticum into Latin from Greek and make it accessible to Greater Europe. So Marsilio Ficino also translated works by Plato and was commissioned by Cosimo de' Medici. Dame Frances Yates gives a good synopsis of this history in her Giordano Bruno and the Hermetic Tradition, which is one of the mainstream classics of magic and Western occultism. But he worked a lot with, if you want to attract Venus, or if you want to attract this aspect of things, then you would surround yourself with her color. You would have her flowers, the rose around you. You would have, surround yourself with those smells. If you want to attract the principle of the solar principle, you would have gold around you. You would have, frankincense or whatever else. That if you surround yourself with these objects that relate to that thing, then you can help to bring it about. And this also goes back to the old concept that like attracts like. So not just colors. There may be certain herbs or plants associated with the goal, so that, some forms of practical occultism, you see in Hoodoo, for example, it's popular, if you want good luck, or if you want to get a loan or something, or prosperity, you carry 5-finger grass or cinquefoil in your pocket. Carry some Irish moss with you if you want success. Or carry a certain herb with you, or plant a certain herb in your garden if you want to keep negative influences at bay. So there's that aspect of things as well. You can use different herbs, different plants. You could use different stones. Some people, they may carry an aventurine stone for good luck. They may carry a quartz crystal to connect with lunar energy. Some people, they may carry around a black onyx to connect with Saturn, or maybe for protection, or jet for protection. Some people work with stones. And of course, there is a very ancient concept that different stones, different herbs, different animals, that these things relate to different stars and planets in astrology. You see this in the Picatrix grimoire. You see it in Babylonian astral magic. You see it in the various technical Hermetica as well. This concept that these objects relate, that the inferiors, meaning the elemental things such as stones, herbs, and plants, are related in proportion to the superiors, which were seen as the celestial bodies. So you have this concept. Now, that was not necessarily seen or viewed from the consciousness model, that it's all just symbols in the mind. Many people actually believed that there was an objective affinity between these things. So it's important not to project a lot of our modern baggage or conceptions onto ancient magic. But there is certainly a precedent for working with stones and herbs and plants and colors that were believed to actually relate to these celestial bodies and things. One of the best ways of integrating symbol systems and working with symbols is actually the tarot. The tarot, there are different forms of tarot. Normally in Western occultism, we're referring to a deck of 78 cards, 22 major arcana, and 56 minor arcana. Those are not trumps. The trumps are the majors. Slipping up on my words here. But tarot is basically a picture language. It is a picture language. It is a mnemonic device that you can work with symbols, and you can memorize symbols and all of these things. My own way of working with tarot tends to be a little different, and before getting involved in this, I myself already had my own individual conception of esoteric occult tarot using as a tool for transformation. However, there is an organization called Builders of the Atom, or BOTA. You can find their website at www.bota.org. If you join Builders of the Atom, or check that out, they have a wonderful correspondence course that it actually takes 15 years to go. If you just go straight through with taking no breaks, just going straight through, it takes 15 years to go through the whole correspondence course, the whole system. The whole course on tarot takes 15 years to go through, and it helps you to integrate these various aspects of symbol. Plus there are lodges, and it's a lot like masonry in the sense that it's a fraternity. Tarot could be used to integrate these symbols, to memorize these symbols, to really integrate it into your consciousness, and also as a tool for transformation. Let's say that you're wanting to bring out your own inner ruler. You want to bring in an air of authority. You can meditate on the Emperor to help to bring forth this aspect of your own psyche, your own consciousness, so that the consciousness of man has many different aspects. Sort of like some would view the divine as the one God having many faces. Some people have that perspective, especially in more of a soft polytheist type of view. Whatever the case, that our consciousness has many different masks, that through working with tarot, for example, the Emperor, to bring up that ruler, that inner ruler or king within ourselves, that authority, meditate on the Emperor and bring forth this aspect of the psyche. Or, the Queen of Wands, or whatever the case may be, bringing forth these inner aspects of ourselves by working on the tarot. Bring out the Hermit, or whatever the case may be. So basically, once you have fully integrated the symbol systems of, certain animals having certain meanings, certain colors, certain timing, like days of the week, once you have this fully integrated in your consciousness, you're able to communicate through the universe, through ritual, but the universe can also begin to speak back to you. It can begin to talk back. You can have periods of synchronicity where events line up, and it seems like the universe is literally speaking to you. You have a language to interact with the universe, so that certain events line up, you see certain things, and this is sort of where you get into the concept of an omen, that you see certain symbols that could portray different things, and you learn lessons. So you basically have a two-way communication with the universe. Now, some would say that there is a limitation to this, because this is all based upon the consciousness, and some would also say the energy models of Magick. There is also the spirit model. So I in no way am saying that it's this way or that way. You have to decide as an independent thinker. So here I am not saying it's like this or like that. This is for you to decide. But I want to show all aspects so that you can come to your own conclusion. There is another way of looking at things when you're working with external entities. If you're working with the spirit model of Magick, like you see in a lot of the grimoires. Now, some people see the various spirits from the grimoires as just parts of their psyche. You do see that view. Aleister Crowley mentions this viewpoint in his Goetia, the Megaton. So there are different views on this, but if you look at some of the older views on occultism and spirit summoning magic, there is the view that you're working with external entities. So here we get to another perspective. Okay, symbol systems, it's all in your mind, all that, all in your head. This works under the consciousness and energy models of magic if you're working with like candle spells. And some also view the spirits as being parts of your psyche. So basically, the view that I've given throughout this video is based on the consciousness model, basically, essentially. And, you know, you could also see the energy model, because those kind of go together, according to many occultists. But under the spirit model, if you see these as actual external entities, then it's not necessarily so much about what makes you feel good or what resonates with you. It's kind of like if you invite your neighbor over for dinner and they don't like seafood or they're allergic to seafood, but you like seafood. If you invite them over and they're allergic to seafood and you make them seafood, they may look at you kind of funny and say, I don't like seafood, or I'm allergic to seafood. If you looked at them and said, well, it doesn't matter. It's all about me and how I feel and what resonates with me. They might look at you kind of funny and be like, but I'm allergic to seafood, I cannot eat it, or I don't like seafood. And if you said, well, it's all about how I feel, it's all about me, then, you know, if you have the premise that these are actual external entities with their own likes and dislikes and things like that, if you work under this model of, like, let's say classical grimoire ceremonial magic, then you have a little bit of a different perspective. So this is where some more traditional hardcore occultists would say that there is a limitation to that it's all just symbols in the mind. You know, that there is the view amongst some occultists and more classical, traditional ceremonial magic of the grimoires that, you know, even the direction that it was all about the proper formula. Externals mattered in this perspective. Again, I'm not saying that it's one way or the other. It's up for you to decide. What I'm saying is that there is this other view that when you're dealing with the spirit model, that these are external entities you're working with, then it would become no longer just all about how you feel. Some would say that facing the proper direction would have an impact, because certain spirits are said to come from different directions. If a spirit comes from, say, the northeast, and you're facing, you know, the southwest, and you have their back to them, there is the view that they might be offended. Or they may think that you don't know what the hell you're doing, because your back is to them. Because if your back is to them, and you're like, I summon you, I command you, the spirit will be like, well, this guy has his back to me, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So, you know, some would say that the layman that you wear, the breastplate, the spirit would see these names and, you know, be afraid, or, you know, the circle in the ground. So if you work under the viewpoint that these are actual external entities, then externals would matter under this other viewpoint. So we tend to, the consciousness model and the subjectivist viewpoint has sort of taken over in Western occultism. It is the predominant narrative. But what I'm saying is that there is this other view that in classical, traditional, grimoire, let's say Solomonic magic, that there is the actual, if you're working with external entities. And there are similarities between, like, let's say Solomonic magic and certain Eastern practices of binding spirits, like you see in some Chinese Taoist practices of binding ghosts and spirits. So The reason that I end this video with this is so that we don't get trapped in one view. It's important to always see that there is another viewpoint, and we need to consider another viewpoint. It all goes back to balance every thought with its opposite. Their union is the destruction of illusion, so that whenever you look at a certain viewpoint, you need to look at the opposing view. The reason I say this is because I want people to understand that there are other viewpoints out there in the occult community. That it's not just all one only way of looking at things. There are other perspectives. So there are those that are of the opinion and more, in classical ceremonial magic of the grimoires, that some are of the opinion that it could be dangerous when you're summoning entities to work with it in that way. So I try to throw all ideas out there, but whatever the case may be, in regard to grimoire, let's say Solomonic or Enochian, or whatever form of grimoire magic, whatever the case may be with that, with external entities, in the case of, let's say, candle magic, when actually even like mojo bags and even working with amulets and stuff, there are people that see it under the spirit model. So, but it's important to understand the concept of integrating symbol systems under the consciousness model. And like I said, this could be used to communicate with the universe. It could also be used as the universe communicating back. This could also be seen as the basic structure of rituals, that it helps you to have one-pointed concentration upon a goal. So it helps you to focus your mind. So yeah, and again, I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but it's important to always look at other viewpoints. But yeah, it is important to understand this idea that integrating symbol systems is important for inner transformation, simple forms of magic, for example, even wearing a certain color, with intention, of course, because intention is everything. Wearing a particular color, planting a certain plant in your garden, or having a certain plant in your office, to attract, having prosperity herbs in your office at work, or having a certain incense, or carrying a certain stone, that we have symbol systems. So it's important to understand this concept, and this tends to be the predominant view in Western magic. And in my own way of teaching, let's say a complete beginner, they would begin learning about what the different elements represent. And once they have that down, I would have my personal student learn to see the four elements in everything around them throughout the day. If they're riding, think of communication in air. If they're moving, they could think of the swiftness of air, or the fiery energy of fire. If you look at a wall, that hardness, the form and structure of things is earth. You could look at colors. Basically, that person would learn to see the four elements in everything. Crowley does this. He talks about the importance with the Tree of Life of learning to categorize everything you see according to the Tree of Life. That this becomes internalized in our consciousness and becomes an internal language that then becomes a doorway or an internalized language for communicating with the divine, the universe, or higher self, however you want to see this. Once it is fully integrated in your consciousness, once you fully absorb the symbol system, then it can begin to speak to you. You also see this in divination with runes and tarot. So behind divination with, like, say, runes and tarot, behind candle spells, amulets, all these things, you have symbol systems. And again, you can communicate with the universe. So anyways, that is today's video. Today I'm making a video kind of on the fly. I don't have all my fancy equipment. But anyways, it is what it is. Anyways, thank you for joining me. New videos come out every Saturday morning. If you want to support my work, go to my Patreon account. And basically this video is last minute. So, but it's important. This is something I've been wanting to talk about. But anyways, I will see you guys next Saturday. And thank you for joining me. Have a great day, everyone.